Hi, I'm Ken Reid, and it's time for another edition of Hockey Card History. This week, I dug into my cards, and I dug out some of the best mustaches I could find. Hey, 'tis the season to grow a stash. We're all locked in. There's no barbers around, so why not let it rip? Of course, when you're talking mustaches and hockey, you're going back to the 70s and the 80s, probably up to around 88 or so, until the clean-shaven look came back in. Remember, hockey was late to that 60s party. Everybody had the old crew cut going on, but in the 70s, players started to express themselves, and that is where we started with card number 10. In fact, on the very back of this card, it says, and I quote, "First player in recent years to wear a mustache." We are talking about Derek Sanderson. Now, Derek Sanderson is the closest thing that professional hockey had to Ric Flair in the mid to late 1970s.
And I'm saying, woo, you're going to be mine. Woo!
Derek Sanderson, he was styling, he was profiling, got his cup in Boston. He was one of the first players to bolt to the WHA, and he signed for big bucks. And in true Ric Flair fashion, well, right after he signed, he took money and went and bought a Rolls Royce for cash. His tenure in the WHA did not last long, but this sweet little stash lasted throughout his professional hockey career. He had some tough times, went into broadcasting for a while, and now he's a financial advisor. Quite a story behind Derek Sanderson. Wow. Okay, number 9. Believe it or not, the man in this picture is only 25 years old. We're talking about Dunk Wilson, 73, 74 OPG. That is one solid handlebar from Dunk Wilson. Now, he's pretty sweaty. There's not a lot of makeup going into this. That's because back in the day, photographers literally used to just take guys aside after practice and say, "Pose for your hockey card," and they would. Dunk evidently might have gotten bag skated. He put in a good performance there. The game was different in Dunk's day. You could have hair like that. You could have a mustache like that. And if you got ran back in the day, a guy like Dunk Wilson didn't need anyone to defend him. Sweet tilt in 76, 77 against Danny Gare. The dunker went at it.
Boy, did Gare run into Dunk Wilson. Gare and Wilson, there they go. Gare and Wilson. And the dunker working Gare over pretty good. Pounding away. And he got Gare a couple of good ones, Jack.
It was a great scrap from a man with a great tash. Moving on to number 8. We're talking Don Kozak of the Los Angeles Kings. Kozak spent 6 seasons with LA, ended up playing over 400 games in the NHL. And if you go up really close on this duster, you can see he's got a little bit of the roly fingers twirl there. Little bit of the roly fingers twirl from Don, who evidently was quite into the Hollywood scene. If you look like that, you got to be into the Hollywood scene if you remember the LA Kings back in the 70s. Kings, you should remember, mid-70s, really strong team with Marcel Dion up front, Rogie Vachon, and that's just not a lot of luck in the playoffs. Okay, this is a duster. We're talking number 7. Brief NHL career, big impact, at least as far as the duster and the hair goes. I mean, Dwight Bialowas, he could pass for an extra in Dazed and Confused with that look. That is sweet hair. That's a sweet duster. Bialowas started his NHL career with Atlanta, finished up with Minnesota, played in over 100 NHL games. From Regina, Saskatchewan, that look, still solid. Dwight Bialowas, like it, love it. Decent tash from back in the day. So if you're from my neck of the woods and you're talking about mustaches in hockey, you have to include this man. When he played, his mustache was rather tame. When he coached, and now that he's coaching again, an assistant in Columbus, it's a lot bushier. Remember, he had a mustache lookalike in Ottawa a few years back. We're talking the pride of Antigonish County, Nova Scotia, Paul McLean. The man scored goals for a living with the Winnipeg Jets in the 1980s, and he grew a decent mustache as well. Paul McLean, all-around good dude, underrated player, perhaps an underrated mustache. We move on to number 5. And wow, did we see a lot of this guy last spring when the St. Louis Blues won their Stanley Cup, but he never played for the Blues during that cup run, but he is Mr. Blue. Bob Plager spent a decent chunk of time with the St. Louis Blues throughout the 70s. For 4 seasons, Bob and his brothers Bill and Barkley all played for St. Louis, and they were tough customers. Look at that handlebar on Bob Plager. Wouldn't want to mess with the St. Louis Blues and Bob Plager in the 1970s. The Plagers, they were 2 of the guys who chased another famous mustache man around the ice one night at Maple Leaf Gardens when they tried to get a hold of Eddie Shack, but Eddie was just a little too fast for Big Bob Plager. That is a classic cop 70s look. Speaking of classic looks, if you are a Vancouver Canucks fan, you knew this guy was going to show up on the list. This is his 81, 82 O-Pee-Chee. Talking Harold Snaps. And can we bring back those uniforms, please? I thought they were ugly as a kid. I like them now. Harold Snaps, he was basically Mr. Vancouver Canuck. Played with the Canucks for years before spending time with Detroit, St. Louis, and Minnesota. Wow, Snaps. For some reason, me and my buddies had this strange fascination with Harold Snaps when we were kids. Can't really explain it because we didn't see him play a lot. But Snaps, there he is on that 81-82 O-Pee-Chee. Big part of the Canucks run all the way to the Stanley Cup final in 1982 against the New York Islanders. Okay, this guy showed up on Hockey Card History before. He showed up for having a fantastic mask, but what was under that mask? Look at the size of that duster on a young Ron Lowe, goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings. Lowe, of course, went on to become an Edmonton Oiler, went on to become an NHL head coach, but that is one solid 1970s duster. Well played, Ron Lowe. You do have to take the mask off every once in a while when you're a goaltender to let them know what you got. Number 2 on the list of best hockey card mustaches. You knew I had to have this man on my list. You knew he was going to be top 2. I had the pleasure of writing a book with this guy. He got the inspiration from his mustache from the mad Hungarian, Al Habrowski. This is Dennis Maruk on a Washington Capitals 1981-82 leaders card. Look at that handlebar on Dennis. The classic Fu Manchu mustache from Dennis Maruk. In this season, he was coming off his first 50-goal season. He followed that up with 60 goals for the Washington Capitals, 110 goals in 2 seasons. For the man they called Pee-wee, he's in the London Knights Hall of Fame. His jersey should be retired by the London Knights, should be retired by the Washington Capitals. Dennis Maruk, he would do anything to survive in the National Hockey League. Pleasure to get to know him. Pleasure to call him a friend. Number 1, it's no shocker. Best mustache on a hockey card. You know where I'm going. The only thing is what card would I go with? What card could really show that mustache up close? The answer, 83-84 O-Pee-Chee. This is his 82-83 season leaders card, the Calgary Flames, and that, of course, is Lanny Mcdonald. Before I show you the mustache, look at the goal totals that season. 66 goals for Lanny. That is just outstanding. And if you see Lanny these days, the only difference is the hair doesn't stick out quite as much, and it's pretty much white. But Lanny still has this classic mustache. He's a teammate with us for Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. Lanny's just one of those guys who he absolutely spreads joy. When I was a kid and he scored in the 1989 Stanley Cup Finals against the Montreal Canadiens.
Up the center and coming in as Lube. Newendijk centered it. McDonald scores! Lanny Mcdonald!
And McDonald showed you a 26-year-old shot by a 36-year-old man as he put it up and over Patrick Waugh.
Here comes the siren. Here come the Flames. Champions.
I was just ticked off. Now, all these years later, I think what a fitting end to a wonderful career for a wonderful man. Lanny, he just loves the game. He spreads joy throughout the game. And he's the kind of guy, you look at him, you think hockey, you think classic hockey, you think classic duster. Lanny McDonald, as the great Ed Whalen would say. If you like that video, wicked good. Make sure you click the button below and subscribe to the Sportsnet YouTube channel for video after video of endless awesomeness.